Greetings, YouTube visitors and brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome to another video, and this time we're going to do a round the world news report. I'm not doing so many anymore, but every now and then I'm going to try to pick out the more important editions to cover current events, both on the political and financial horizon. So let's get into this right now. Alright, so let me back it up here, and you know, we need to be informed about what's happening in the economy. You know, I'm sure you're concerned about your job. That's a lawful concern. Being able to pay your mortgage, being able to pay your car loan if you have one. Most people do. Because we keep buying things on credit. That's the problem, you see. I've been reiterating this fact. Get out of debt and stay out of debt. Stop buying things on credit. Save your money. Look for a part-time business. Start a part-time business. It could be being a slave to your job, if at all possible. Alright. Let's see what we got. Expect a December Fed increase in the interest rate and quantitative QT should play fits with the financial bubbles. Additionally, the likelihood of a December U.S. government shutdown is increasing. U.S. student loan debts now equal the size of the 1.3 trillion U.S. high-yield corporate bond market. Both Turkey and Saudi Arabia strongly oppose Trump's initiative to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Not good. Germany has lost over 75% of its insect population over the past 3 decades. This particular editor throws out a lot of different interesting bits of information. It's not always financial and political. Sometimes, you know, they'll talk about the environment, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and so on. First, I'm going to go over some of the headlines that he covers. All right. BRICS, that is B-R-I-C-S, Britain, Russia, India, China, and what does S stand for? I can't remember. Anyway, the BRIC nations considering gold trading system. The war on gold intensifies. Russia and China could kickstart non-U.S. dollar financial system. For the first time in modern history, U.S. government debt will surpass U.S. household debt. That's at zerohedge.com. Artificial intelligence will invade every corner of Wall Street. That's at bloomberg.com. Bitcoin prices are not really surging. Fiat currencies are in a free fall. That's found at cointelegraph.com. What else do we have here? In a central planning socialist world, deficits soar everywhere. Nearly every government is bankrupt. That's found at dollarcollapse.com. The billionaire oligarch, transnational corporations, and the deep state in the pecking order over us. How the U.S. dictatorship works. Of the billionaire oligarchs, by the billionaire oligarchs, for the billionaire oligarchs. That's at strategicculture.org. Alright? People need to wake up to the evil harm done to them individually caused by the involuntary immoral theft of their lives, which equals time, which equals energy, which equals work, which equals money, which equals property, which equals taxes, which equals purchasing power by the coercion and collectivism of politicians, that is sociopaths and psychopaths, and their fellow parasites in the welfare warfare state. That's an article at Eric ericpeterautos.com. That's ERICPETERSAUTOS.com. Here's a little bit by paragraph or some thoughts by Paul Craig Roberts. Quote, when a country's government and media do nothing but lie 24/7, how can democracy exist? Clearly, it cannot. We have been subjected to years of lies from Washington and the prostitutes. What's a prostitute? A prostitute is a cross between the press and a prostitute. I don't know when that term was coined. The prostitutes, that Washington is fighting ISIS when Washington sent ISIS to Syria to destroy Assad and the Syrian government. Flynn let the cat out of the bag, that ISIS was not an independently formed organization, but a tool of U.S. policy. Private interests and agendas have control over the U.S. government. The people have no control. Washington works by selling legislation to the interest groups in exchange for campaign contributions. The private interests that provide the money that elects politicians get the laws that they want. The ruling oligarchy is making an example of Trump in order to ensure that no future presidential candidate makes a direct appeal to the people. When Trump said that he was going to govern in the interest of the people by bringing the offshore jobs home, he attacked the profits of the global corporations. And when he said he was going to normalize relations with Russia, he attacked the power and profit of the military/security complex. He is now paying the price for his rashness. So writes Dr. Paul Craig Roberts in an article, Walking into Armageddon, dated December 5th, 2017. All right, more headline news. Be thankful for empire-ending headlines. The National Military Madness of the United States. That's at charleshughsmith.blogspot.com. U.S. government operating black site prisons in international waters. No U.S. law and using torture. That's found at thefreethoughtproject.com. The self-serving imperial neocon-infested Pentagon has squandered $5.6 trillion of hapless U.S. taxpayer funds on 16 years of war. That article can be found at zerohedge.com. Let's see. Jewish author and columnist James Howard Kunstler says the FBI is a leftist, corrupt federal agency, that the U.S. deep state has gone, quote, apeshit. Flynn asked Russia for a favor at the behest of Kushner, that's Trump's son-in-law, with the approval of Trump to shield Israel from international crimes. It was never about Russia, it was always about Israel. That can be found at kunstler.com, Kunstler.com. Let's see, Western females, Marxist feminists really, line up to run for office, furious at Trump. That's found at the NewYorkTimes.com. Pelosi says GOP tax bill is the worst in the history of the U.S. Congress. U.S. Supreme Court lets Trump travel ban stand. Invading migrant emissions into the United States plunged 83% under Trump. Found at zerohedge.com. Turkey's Erdogan says there is no moderate Islam. That's found at gatestoneinstitute.org. GATESTONEINSTITUTE. gatestoneinstitute.com. All right, 8 to 10 million more African invading migrants, all with cell phones, headed for Europe, sure to sink the economic life raft and destroy European culture. Acid attacks soaring in London due to cultural Marxist multiculturalism, found at yahoo.com. Germany warns of highly radicalized ISIS wives and children, found at dailycaller.com. Germany offers invading migrants money to go home, found on foxnews.com. Traditional Christian Mass canceled in Bari, that's Bari, B-A-R-I, Italy, African invading migrants make it too dangerous to go out in the evenings. Italian culture destroyed. Found at diversity, MACHTR, or rather FREI.wordpress.com. All right, and let's see. Wiley Israel ships its Eritrean invading migrants off to Sweden. Spelled Eritrean, Eritrean, I believe, invading migrants off to Sweden. Found at jpost.com. Google supercomputer creates its own AI child. All right. Netflix science fiction series has the wealthy living forever. That is, becoming gods. Well, that's what they want, isn't it? And why is it that some of these people like George Soros, George Bush Sr., the late Rockefeller, who lived to be, I think, 101, Henry Kissinger, I mean, how is it that these evil people are living to be so long, so old? Isn't it because they have some scientific knowledge about longevity, perhaps? I think that's probably what it is. Volcanic ash from Antarctic volcano could cause global health problems. You can find that at shtfplan.com. All right. Seems like millennials, the millennial generation, and some of the young people favor Bitcoin over gold. Yeah, the young generation don't understand the value of gold, but then ask yourself, why is it that central banks continue gobbling up gold? It might be wise for you to invest in some gold and silver, which is real money. It's been considered money for thousands and thousands of years. After all, God put gold in the ground and he called it good in the book of Genesis. Rockefeller didn't put gold in the ground, so gold has to be mined. It takes a lot of effort to extract gold out of the ground. You can't print it up like you can fiat paper money. All right. And let me read an article by Paul Craig Roberts. This is more of an article, a little bit longer. The deficit, or rather back it up. Plundering elitist corporate debt capitalism. I implore the debt cut that has passed Congress. It is not an economic policy cut, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with supply-side economics. The entire purpose is to raise equity prices by providing equity, that is, stock owners with more capital gains and dividends. In other words, it's legislation that makes equity owners richer, thus further polarizing society into a vast arena of poverty and near poverty, and the 1%, or more precisely, a fraction of the 1%, wallowing in billions of dollars. Unless our rulers can continue to control the explanations, the tax cut hedges us closer to revolution, resulting from complete distrust of government. Well, that's a Marxist plan. That's what Karl Marx wanted, to create a revolution between the rich and the poor, wipe out the middle class, and he's doing a pretty good job, after all. Marxism is taught in our universities, our public universities, and for the most part, as we foist Keynesian economics upon our youth, our college youth, the progressive income tax, or the graduated income tax, and basically the whole centralized banking system, which is a monopoly on the money system through the Federal Reserve, which was created in 1913. All right, the current tax legislation drops the corporate tax rate to 20%. This means that global corporations registered in the United States will be taxed at a lower income rate than a licensed practical nurse making $50,000 per year. The nurse, if single, faces a 2017, a 25% marginal tax rate on all income over $37,950. The neoliberal economists, who are the shills for the rich, Wall Street and the banks, too big to fail, claim erroneously that by cutting the corporate income tax rate to 20%, all sorts of offshore profits will be brought back to the United States and lead to a booming economy and higher wages. This is absolute total nonsense. The money won't come back because it is invested abroad where labor costs are lower, if invested at all, instead of buying back the corporation's stock or buying other existing companies. After 20 years of offshoring, U.S. manufacturing and professional tradable skills and the incomes associated with the jobs, who is going to invest in America? The American population has no income with which to purchase the goods and services from new investment, and the American population's credit cards are maxed out. The deficit-conscious Republicans have put into the bill for enhancement of the richest wealth cuts in social services in order to save workers from higher interest rates from budget deficits. This is more dishonesty. If the Fed lets real interest rates rise to any meaningful amount, derivatives will unwind and the Fed will have to create trillions more in new dollars to keep its Ponzi scheme in place. The deficit that results from the tax cut will be covered by the Fed purchasing the treasuries, not by a rise in interest rates. Well, that might lead to hyperinflation. Anytime you create trillions of new dollars, that's more money chasing fewer goods, isn't it? What we are witnessing in the United States, and indeed throughout the Western world, is the total failure of capitalism. Well, not true capitalism, but crony capitalism. Capitalism is now merely a looting machine. The financial sector no longer supplies capital for production. What the financial sector does is to turn discretionary consumer income into interest and fee payments to banks. Aggregate demand can only grow through debt expansion, and the consumers reach a point where they cannot expand their debt. Capitalism, hiding behind globalism, which is misrepresented as a good thing when it is death itself, locates production where labor is cheapest, thus depriving first world labor of good wages and work opportunities and putting first world countries on the path of becoming third world countries. Short-term profits and executive and board bonuses and stock options are maximized at the cost of the destruction of the domestic consumer market. Plunder capitalism also privatizes as much of the public sector, such as the military, as possible, thus driving up the cost of the Pentagon's budget. Jobs that the soldiers themselves formerly did are given to politically connected firms. What was once KP, that is kitchen patrol, is now provided by an outside private service. Private mercenaries hired by the Pentagon collect as much in a month as troops in the line of fire earn in a year. Think about that. I don't know that the Army any longer has a supply organization other than the private business that has a contract. Medicare and Medicaid are the next to be privatized, along with Social Security. The tax cut will result in deficit and high interest rate hike, and these lies will be used to save the workers from high interest rates on their mortgage, credit card, and student loan debt by scaling back or privatizing Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. The environment and public lands will be sacrificed to the private profits of timber, mining, and energy companies. Yeah, big corporations. Again, this is corporatism, where the corporations rule, all right? Or economic fascism, or corporate fascism, as it's also been called. All right, concluding the article by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. What we are witnessing is the complete looting of America and the entirety of the West. While the Western world collapses, the insouciant, submissive people sit there sucking their thumbs while they're being ruined. Nothing is left of the West except looters at work. This tax bill is an abomination, an act of brutal plunder. Its sponsors should be tarred and feathered and ridden out of town on a rail, if not hung from a lamppost. So writes Dr. Paul Craig Roberts in an article titled Plunder Capitalism, dated December 4th, 2017. Well, I haven't been following whether Trump endorsed this or not, but he must have endorsed it unless he vetoed it.